with me, would you go to Exodus chapter 2 if you have your Bible? We're still talking about Moses. We're talking about the life of Moses for a little bit, what he did last week. We talked about stretching and how stretching strengthens your stability, how it makes you stable so that you can face the challenges that you face. You can face the things that you go through, what you walk through. It all takes a stretch. So we're going to go back into the Stretch Mark series part 2. And today we're going to talk about stretching your faith. And we're going to get that message from Exodus chapter 2. If you have your Bible and you're at Exodus chapter 2, give me an amen.
Amen.
If you don't have your Bible, but you got your phone or you're looking at the Sky Bible, then I've kept that as my own lingo. Then just be ready, because here we go. Exodus chapter 2, we're going to go from verse 1 to verse 8, live, to verse 10. So you might not have 9 and 10 up there, because I don't know that I copied it. Okay, anyway, this is what it says. And a man of the house of Levi went and took as wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him for 3 months. Now remember when we talked last week, they told the Israelite midwives to take any sons that are born and kill them, but to take the women child and let them live. And so the midwives did not do that because they feared God. And so this woman, you don't read her name here, but her name is actually Jochebed. That is Moses' mother's name. Again, if you're looking for a baby name, Jochebed is in there. But she hid him for 3 months. And it says that when she saw he was a beautiful child, it's actually translated, if you get into it, a healthy child. God had given her a healthy child, which to them who served God, who were Israelites, I almost said Israelis, I almost brought it right to 2017. Those Israelites, if they were given a son, it was a blessing from God. A healthy son was the best you could get. And so when she seen he was a healthy boy, she hid him for 3 months. Verse 3, but when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him and daubed it with asphalt and pitch, and put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the riverbank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walking along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maids to get it. And when she opened it, she saw a child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, who was just eerily creeping around in the bushes, "Shall I go call one of the nurses for the Hebrew women, that they might nurse the baby for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. She got paid to raise her own baby. I don't know if you caught that, but see, God is so good to you.
Amen.
That if something gets taken for you, He's going to pay you to get back what's already yours. That's the kind of God that we serve. So, verse 10, and the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." So we're going to continue in our Stretch Mark series, and we talked about last week how stretching strengthens. The stretching in your life strengthens you. It's something that God uses to strengthen you. Today we're going to talk about faith, and we're going to talk about how the stretching of your faith strengthens your future. When you get stretched in your faith, it strengthens what you will do, what you will become, what you will go into. The stretching of your faith today is strengthening what will happen for you, in you, and with you tomorrow, next week, down the road. Stretching your faith sounds like something that's real easy to do. It's something like we exercise our faith every single day and we don't even realize it. But the moment you know that you're doing something that takes faith is the minute that faith all of a sudden becomes hard. You have faith in the morning that when you get up and go to work, you're going to go to your car and your car is going to start, because you have the faith to know that your car should be working properly. Unless maybe your car is not that great of a car, then maybe you really stretch your faith right there. You have strength. You have faith anytime you go to the doctor, because I think in doctor school, medical school, they teach you how to write sloppy on purpose, just so nobody can read what you're writing. And so you have faith that the pharmacist can really make out what that doctor wrote down, so that they give you something that's really going to help the issue that you have, so that you get healed out of this thing, and they don't give you like medicine for a rash on your knee when you got like a broke leg, and like the wrong medicine ain't gonna do you no good, Dustin, you know what I'm saying? But we exercise our faith every day. And it seems hard to anyone when you notice that you're exercising your faith. I don't know that I can do it. I don't know that I can make it through this. I don't know that I can continue on the way I'm going, because this takes a level of faith that I just don't think I have. I don't think I'm at that place yet. I don't think I can fully understand the faith that God needs me to use in this situation. I don't understand how my life is falling apart, and every time I take another step and I look back, I look and see rubble behind me of what my life used to be, of what my life was, and how I was happy back there, and now I'm walking through this garbage, and I don't understand how. And God says, stretch your faith. And one day when you look back, you will see something differently. You will see the same rubble, but from a different perspective. The stretching of your faith will strengthen you for what you're going to go through. You think if it wasn't for that back there, I could have never walked through what I'm walking through now. But thank God that He brought me through what He brought me through back there, because He knew what I was getting ready to walk into up here. There is something that God is going to do in your right now that is going to prepare you for your tomorrow. And it always starts with a stretching of the faith. Faith is something that we use even when we don't know it. Right. Every single day. And people say nice things to you to try to help you stretch your faith. They say things like, well, just have faith. Okay? All right. Well, just trust in God. And it's easy for those of us who really have a 100% mindset of, I'm going to just trust in God no matter what. And that's how me and Chastity have chosen to kind of embrace things. And it doesn't mean it's easy at all times. It just means when somebody says trust in God, you can understand what they're saying to you. They're saying to you, trust God that He has a plan for you. Trust God that there's something He's going to do out of this. But when you don't really understand, or you're new into a relationship with God, or you walked away and you've been through so much hurt that you just can't trust God. And the moment you go to somebody and you say, I don't know how to deal with this problem, and they said, well, God does, just bring it to God. And you think, the last thing I want to hear from you or anybody else is to trust God. I need to figure this out for myself. Right. I don't need your trust God comment. And the person is just trying to be nice, you know? Like, trust God. I remember one time Stephanie came into my office in Orlando, and I don't remember what she said, but the way she came in, it was like she was upset about something. She wasn't upset, but like that's the vibe I got from her. And so I said, oh no, I thought in my head like a million things at one time, and the first thing I thought was, well, God can do it. God is able. And she started saying something, and then I said, oh, I thought you were going to come in here with something bad, and I was about to just tell you God is able. And she goes, if I ever come to you with something bad and you say God is able, I'm going to hit you in the head with something. And I was like, all right, well, note taken. Don't say God is able to Stephanie. But it's always done from a place of trying to help. People say, it'll be okay. How do you know it will be okay? Even if you've walked through what I've walked through, you're not walking through it now. Even if I'm going through divorce and you've been divorced 14 times, eventually, bro, the problem might be you. I'm not saying every one of your ex-relationships was wrong, but if I'm going through bankruptcy and you're living fat in a big house with a nice car in the middle of the country somewhere, and you don't even have to see people if you don't want to, you don't understand my struggle. You don't understand my struggle, and that's why I think people get so frustrated when they go through life and they say, well, Jesus didn't live in 2017. Jesus didn't have the internet to fill His lustful addictions every time He wanted to. Jesus didn't have people who were willing to be there to do anything that they do. Jesus didn't have to worry about getting addicted to meth, because meth wasn't around back in the day. Jesus didn't go through the things that I'm going through. So how can you tell me that Jesus understands? Well, the Bible says that Jesus was tempted on all points, so that when we are tempted, we have a high priest that can relate to us. We have somebody that knows what it's like to be tempted. In Matthew 4, Jesus was tempted 3 times by Satan himself. You think you've been in a struggle? You think you've been tempted? Wait until the devil himself comes and tempts you. And Jesus said the same thing every time. It is written, it is written, it is written. The living word quoted the written word to get rid of the enemy in his life. But he had to go through the wilderness. The Bible said he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. Why would God lead him into the wilderness? Because if he wasn't tempted, each one of those things represents what you'll read in 1 John. The lust of the flesh, the lust of of the eye, and the pride of life. Jesus was tempted by all three of those issues, and there is not one temptation that you will face that does not fall under the category of the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, or the pride of life. So it might look different, it might be a different temptation, but you understand that Jesus was tempted the same ways we're tempted, with the same things that we're tempted by. It looks different, but it's the same underneath.
That's right.
People just say, it'll be okay. But for a lot of people, we want to know what that means. I just don't want to hear it'll be okay. I just don't want to hear somebody tell me, you'll make it through it. You'll make it through it. How do you know I'm not at the edge about to break? And you come over here with that you'll make it through it business. I need you to understand that I am going through some things. I don't need you to give me a little poem that's going to make me feel better. I need you to grab my hand and walk with me through this thing. I need you to pick me up when I fall. I need you to lead me when I can't see. I need you to speak to me softly when I can't hear. I need you to do all the things that God is waiting to do in your life if we just give Him the opportunity. But the minute trouble comes, we don't run to God and say, thanks for the stretch, God. We run away from God and we say, I've been serving God and look at what I'm going through. I've been serving God and I got divorced. I've been serving God and my child just got arrested. I've been serving God and my sister is on drugs and I don't know that she's going to make it. I've been serving God and over again, all this stuff happens to me. How are you going to tell me, just serve God? No, I'm not telling you just serve God. I'm not telling you just go to church. Going to church ain't going to help nobody. I'm sorry. Going to church, that doesn't mean I want you to get up and leave because I like where you're sitting right now. In fact, let's bring some more people. But understand, it's not the church that makes a difference in your life. It's not even necessarily the preacher that makes a difference in your life. The preacher might say something that you've never heard before that makes you think. But God speaks to me. And when God speaks to me, I give it to you guys. That's why I sit up here for so long, because I have my notes planned out and none of the stuff that I'm telling you is even on my notes. And so because God starts to speak to me and He says, I know that you worked. I know that you studied. I know that you prepared. But you got some people sitting in that room right now that need to hear this word right here. So walk away from your notes for a minute. Walk away from what you're doing for a minute. Let me mess some stuff up, because there's somebody out there that no amount of clever rhyme, no amount of awesome statement that you give them, no amount of good scripture, no amount of word is going to do anything that my word won't do. And if you speak my word, I will speak through you to my people.
Amen. All right.
Just serve God. I'm not telling you just to go to church. I'm telling you to give it 100% to Jesus.
Amen.
I'm telling you to pray. Not just when you get in your car, God, hey, let me have a good day. I'm talking about get down and pray. God, I pray that you would cover my children. I pray that you would cover my wife. I pray that you would cover my husband. I pray that you would cover my job. I pray that you surround me with such a blessing that every time the enemy tries to come against me, he gets met with severe resistance. I pray that every time something happens in my life where I start to slip or stumble, that you remind me of the goodness of God in my life, that you remind me of what I used to be, that you remind me of what I used to be trapped in, that you remind me of what you brought me out of. God, I pray that you would begin to flood me with emotions, that you would begin to flood me with memories, and that you would begin to let me understand that it is only by the grace of the living God in my life that I am able to take one more step forward, that I am able to breathe one more breath, and that I am able to speak one more word.
Amen.
Don't just go to church, be the church.
Amen.
Be the church. Let Jesus live inside of you. And I know it sucks and it's hard sometimes to get your faith stretched. See, I'm from South Florida, and when we started to do ministry, Chastity's uncle had called us and said, well, I would offer you guys a spot to come and serve as our youth pastor here in Indiana. It was in Marion, and it's a smaller town, and I've lived in a city like my whole life, or a city area my whole life, and so I'm not a small town person. I don't deal with this, and so I was so excited at the chance for ministry that I just said, okay, yeah, let's do it. And we got there, and it was a nice church. The people were great, but I think the youngest person was like 60, and there was like 2 kids in the youth group, and they belonged to the secretary of the church, and like I was like, I don't know what we're doing here, like, and we had no friends, we had no family, we had nothing. We left our whole lives, we left everything we did because this is what we felt like God wanted us to do. And we sat there for a year and a half or however long we were there, and all we had was each other, and all we had was the kids that began to come in to fill up our youth group, and we would spend time with them, and we would talk to them. And when I was going through it, listen, we lived in a tiny house. I mean a small house. We learned some things not to do. We learned what we should do. We learned a lot of different areas. We made mistakes. We learned from our mistakes. We kept going, and we did everything that we could do. Small house, small money. We came up here in February to look for a job and to find a place to live and everything because we were moving in March. I found a job. It was all locked down. We got here, and they was like, I don't know that we need you. And I was like, I'm about to lose my Jesus right here. I'm about to walk in there, and they're going to give me a job. They done already told me once. But that wouldn't have been the right thing to do. Just trust God. God is able. But we were struggling. The stretch was real. Our tiny house, we only had to pay $300 a month or something like that, and we couldn't even afford that. Our money was stretched. Our house was stretched. Our lives were stretched. It was 2 of us with 2 kids in a small little bitty house that we could never afford to pay most months. But then there steps in my favorite 2 words in the Bible when they are connected. But God. Because but God forces me to put my faith into action. It forces me to stretch some things that normally I wouldn't stretch. People often see faith as a noun. It's a thing. It's something that I have. Faith is what I have in me. It's what I am. I am a person of faith. No, but faith is best used as a verb. When I see but God, it activates my faith in new ways. I can't pay my rent in this house, but God makes a way when there seems that there is no other way. I can't get past this loss in my life, but God gives me strength when I am at my weakest. I can never be loved, but God has selected somebody for you. Every time you look in the mirror and you say, I can't, God says you can, and all it takes is for you to start stretching a little bit. Because if you would allow God to stretch you a little bit, you would see that there are things that are going to develop in your life. You're not going to be afraid no more. You're not going to be worried no more. Yeah, I might not be able to pay my bills the way I want to, but at least they're paid. I might not be able to keep the gas man happy, but at least I'm not freezing in the wintertime. I have to allow God to stretch me past what I can do and allow to operate in what He can do. I have to stop replacing but God with but I.
Amen.
Right. I want to get this job, but I don't really know that I can. Now, I want to get this job, but God will do what I need Him to do. He will be strong in my life. I will stand on His promise. We replace but God with but I. But God with but I. We will stretch doing it in our own might, but it's a different kind of stretching. Because when you stretch yourself, you just stretch yourself too far. But when you stretch with God, He knows exactly where to place stuff. We have to stand strong on our foundation. We have to stand strong on God's Word, on His promises, that this book is it's not just a book. It's not just some pages. It doesn't just have a little cool ribbon that freaks people out. And they're like, oh, that's a book with a ribbon. It's got to be a Bible. They got to be weird Christian people. I got to move on. This is a word. This is God's written word living in the lives of believers. I talked to a pastor one time, and I got a new Bible because I love Bibles, and I'm just like kind of a Bible nerd, I guess. And so I think if you don't have a Bible, you should have a Bible. And so I've been guilty of buying people Bibles that they have no intention to use, but I want them to have it, so I buy it for them. And so that's always good for me. But I just think people should always have a Bible. And I walked over to this pastor and I said, man, look at this new Bible I got. It's awesome. It's got all these cool features, like it was a new car. It's got the new Bible smell. It's got everything is going good. Don't get it twisted. There is a new Bible smell. Don't you even think about it. But, and this is what he said to me. Great. You got a new Bible. I have a Bible too. You already have more than one. Why do you need another Bible? That's stupid. Man, that was real hard for me to deal with because it's not stupid. I'm sitting here talking to another person who's a pastor, another person who's supposed to teach and share God's word, another person who is supposed to live God's word in front of people, and the only thing he can say about God's word is you got one, you got enough. More than one is too many. Why? What's the point? That's not what gets us where we're going. Getting into this word, it's more than just a book. It is God's living word for us. It is the light to my path. When I am trying to go somewhere, this word helps me get there. When I am trying to make right decisions, I get into this Bible and I say, God, will you speak to me? Will you show me something? Will you do something through my reading today that shows me that I am on the right track? That shows me that no matter what happens, no matter who comes in, no matter who goes out, no matter what the rent looks like, no matter what the money looks like, no matter what the people do, I'm not here to make people happy. I'm here to make you happy. And God, I pray that you would let me see how to do that through your word each and every time I open it. I do not get into my Bible without saying, God, show me something. Show me, even if I'm just regular reading. I'm not studying for nothing, I'm just reading. Yeah, I do that. I just read my Bible. And I say, God, show me something. Show me something that you want me to see. Stretch me in a new area today, God.
Amen. Amen.
When we put our faith in God, He will always surround us through the stretching process. Always surround us through the stretching process. Stretching hurts at times, especially when you don't think it will. But God is there. God is there to walk with you when you need somebody to walk with. God is there to talk with you when you need somebody to talk with. God is there to be with you in every area. Like we can talk, I can talk to you. I can sit here and talk to you. We can close church down. We can sit right here. We can talk to you all afternoon until the sun goes down. We can still set our alarms to get up, wake up for work right here in the morning. And I can talk to you until I pass out from exhaustion. But there is one thing that I cannot do. I cannot strengthen you in your stretching because that is God's job. That is God's responsibility. And the only way that happens is when we allow God to be God in our life. When we allow God to take His leadership role in our life. God never meant for you to build a house and live in it right there where you are. God almost, I think, wants us to live in like more of a spiritual mobile home. You're not meant to stay planted right there. You're meant to be able to move at any given time that you want. You're meant to be able to pick stuff up and relocate to a new place. You're meant to be able to see new things. You're meant to be able to go new places. You're meant to be able to do whatever God calls you to do. When God says go, He needs us to be ready to go, but we plant ourselves.
Yep.
Because here it's comfortable. Here I don't have to stretch. I got a job. My job helps me pay my bills. I got a family. I got a car. I got extra money to do some shopping or some spending. I got friends. I got everything I need right here. Why would I need to stretch? But your stretching is a tool. It's a tool that God uses to get you closer to Him. It's a tool that God uses to get you away from the things that are holding you back. You see, we think things that like, oh, this is my friend, this is my relationship, this is my job, this is whatever. But those things keep you away. If we let them, if we put them in God's place, they become the most important thing to us. They become everything that we need God to be in our life. We find our identity in what we do. We find our identity in where we work. We find our identity in what our bank account says. We find our identity in who we marry and who we hang out with and who we look up to and what we do in life. And that's not our identity. Our identity comes from God alone. Amen. It comes from Jesus. Yes. It comes from what He did. You are a Christian. You have the potential to stand up and to walk proudly for Jesus. Amen. When you accept the gift of what He did on the cross. But we just look at it and we say, God, that's too much stretching. Yep. I don't want to do that. That carry your cross daily thing really throws me off, God. I don't know that I'm really comfortable with all that. But that's where we see Job. You ever read the book of Job? You ever read the story of Job? Like, I know you probably heard it because I know I've taught it in here. But have you ever really got into the book of Job and read what happens? Job lost his livestock first. Job lost his livestock. And that was two things to Job. Job's livestock was two things. It was his income, it was how he made his money, and it was his worship. Because the Bible said that every day Job would get up and he would go out to the livestock and he would make a sacrifice for every one of his children. Every day, every one of his children, Job would go out there and make a sacrifice. The enemy took his worship. Because if he can take your worship, if he can shut you down when you're worshiping, if he can distract you, if he can get you somewhere else, if you're trying to focus on the words of God and you're trying to listen to the song, you're trying to listen to the pastor, you're trying to listen to a missionary, you're trying to listen to whatever God is trying to say to you, and you get distracted by something, then immediately God's voice is quiet in your life because you've just looked the wrong way. You've put something else in God's place. But Job lost his worship first. Because the enemy knows if he can take your worship, he can take everything else.
Yeah.
Your worship is the thing that keeps you connected to God. Your worship is the thing that keeps you moving. But if I can get you to lose your worship, I can get you to lose your mind. After that, Job lost his children. His children represented his legacy. It represented what he would leave behind. Job's children could carry on the work that he started. Job's children could carry on the family business. And he lost everything. He lost his health. He got sick with a disease. He had sores all over his body. He was going through it. And he lost his wife nearly, but he lost her definitely to a defeated attitude. She said, Job, I'm so sick of this mess. Why don't you just go curse God and die? God ain't done nothing for you. He ain't done nothing for me. He didn't protect our livestock. He didn't protect our children. He didn't protect your body. And he surely ain't protecting our marriage. You just need to curse God and die. But Job knew that there was something inside of him that was so knit together with God that he could not just curse God and die. Yeah. He had to keep moving. He had to keep going. And he had to allow God to stretch him. But there's some good news, because at the end of the book, because all that Job went through, he stayed faithful. He had questions. You ever had a question for God? He had hurts. Have you ever been hurt in your life and wondered, who can you go to? I don't trust nobody in this world. Go to God. He had hurts. He had pain. In fact, he got mad at God sometimes. Do you understand? Like, a lot of people don't like to talk about being mad at God, but if there's one person that you could vent to, if there's one person that you can show some frustration to, if there's one person that you can be a little mad at times, it's God. And it's only God, because God can take your pain. God can take your anger. God can take your frustration. The problem doesn't come because we're mad at God. The problem becomes we stay mad at God, and we stay using God as our blame game. We stay saying that this is God's fault. This is because of what you did. This is because of who you are. If I was just living my life with me in control, this wouldn't have happened, but I tried to let you have it and you blew it, God. That's when we start losing it, is when we start staying mad at God. We keep blaming God. We keep saying, I tried and tried and tried, and you just put more on and more on and more on, and I can't take it no more. God, stop. Please. Now. Because he was faithful through the stretching, the Bible says at the end of Job's book that the Lord restored Job's losses. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Now understand, I know that twice as much doesn't replace what was gone. I know that if you've lost something, that getting a new thing doesn't make it different. Chastity had some jewelry that was her dad's and it got stolen, and I could go get her the exact same bracelet, the exact same ring. I could go get her everything the exact same as it was, have it made if I need to, but it will never replace what she lost, because that was connected to a part of her life. It was connected to something that was important to her. And so understand that when the Bible says that Job got everything restored to him, he didn't get his kids brought back from the dead. He didn't get but everything that he lost, God gave back. And it says not only did he give it back, he gave it to him double. He gave it to him more. He gave him more. And so if you're going through some issues, if you're going through a tough part of life, if you're losing some things, if some friends are falling off, if you say, I have to make a change and I don't care if you like it or not, understand some stuff will fall away. But stuff has to fall away so that God can bring new stuff in. Amen. You cannot have a tree grow and flourish unless you prune away the dead stuff. Amen. There has to be some pruning in your life if you want God to keep pushing you further and further and further and stretching you. So don't see the loss around you as something that's bad. Amen. See the loss around you as something that God is doing new in your life. If he is strong in the stretch, how much stronger is he when the stretch is over? Amen. You look at God and you think, God, I can't believe you kept me safe through that. I can't believe that I made it through that. Thanks, God. And God says, well, that's not all I can make you through. I can make you through your good days too. I can watch over you in your good days too. Yeah, you didn't lose nobody today. You didn't get fired today. You're not addicted to drugs today. Everything's good today. You got up. You have a great relationship. Your kids are all well behaved. The teacher made made it a point to call you today and tell you how good your child is, because your child is the best person in the class. And so you walk through the day and you get home and dinner's already made and it's like your favorite thing in the world. And then you go and you get ready and from the moment you got up to the moment you lay back in bed, your day was perfect. And in those days, we don't need God. We don't need to stretch. But in those days, God is still right there saying, I'm here. Would you spend a little bit of time with me today? Would you spend a little bit of time with me today? Would you just sing a worship song with me? You don't even have, you can put the music on. You can put your headphones on. You can go in a private room where nobody else can hear you. But will you just worship a little bit today? Will you read just one chapter of one book of my love letter to you today? Will you just spend a little bit of time with me? Faith is stretched in the furnace of pain. Faith is stretched in the process of the problem. Don't let the stretching stop you. Let the stretching reach you to your next level. In the words of the ever-wise, most powerful scholars in the band Journey, don't stop believing. Keep pushing forward. Keep moving on. Don't let this be something that knocks you out. Don't let it be something that takes you out. Let it be something that lets you stand up, that lets you walk one foot in front of the other with power and with authority and with anointing that God is in control of your life. I feel like y'all don't really know who God is, because if you knew who God was right now, you'd be clapping and you'd be shouting and you'd be hollering and you'd be saying, oh my God, He is so good to me. The fact that I'm even standing here today speaks of the goodness of God. Listen, I told you before, I'll tell you again because I never get tired of saying it. It never gets old to me. I'm always happy to say it. It makes me so happy of who God is in my life. I didn't plan to make it to be 18, 20 years old, and I'm 35 right now. So God has brought me a little bit farther than I ever planned to go in my life. And I'm so thankful for God that when I think about the goodness of Jesus in my life and what He's done for me and what He's brought me through and what He's carried me through and the things that I've seen, the people I've lost, the places I've been, and I look back and I say, God, if it wasn't for you, I never would have made it. If it wasn't for you, I never would have been able to get through it. But God, you are strong in my stretch, and I'm so thankful for what you've done. Believe for your promise. Believe for your healing. Believe for your peace. Believe that God has a plan and a purpose for you, like He has a plan and a purpose for everyone else. Don't stop believing. An author named Mandy Hale said something like this. She said, the stretching of your faith is an immediate pain to get to an ultimate gain. It's an immediate pain to get to an ultimate gain. But we don't want the ultimate gain. We don't want the immediate pain. We just want the gain. We just want to see the good things. I don't want the good things if I have to go through the negative things to get there. I don't want to have to deal with the bad times in order to get the good times. Thank you, sir. I want to skip it. God, can we just skip the bad times? God, can we skip the times where I have to go to my parents' funeral? I don't want to go to that chapter. God, can we skip the times where I have to deal with an addiction that keeps me held back and I don't get to see my family and I don't get to raise my kids? And can we just skip that chapter because I don't want to deal with that today? God, I can't go through this by myself. Can we skip the chapter where you give me a bad diagnosis from the doctor that says that I'll never do this, I can't do that, I won't be that? Can you skip that? Can we skip that? I just want to have the ultimate blessing. I just want to have the gain. I don't want the rest of it. I don't want any of that, God. I just want to live my life every day for you. So what are the benefits of stretching your faith? Why should I stretch my faith? Why should I stretch my faith? Yeah, Moses did it, but Moses is a Bible hero. Mm-hmm. Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Bible. Moses is a hero to the Bible. I'm just Jonathan. I might not ever make a real difference in somebody's life. You're not just Jonathan. You're not just Dustin. You're not just Stephanie and you're not just Sean. You are a powerful person in the kingdom of God. The problem with powerful people is that the power sits inside of us so long because we don't want to exercise it. We don't want to walk in our authority. We want to just let somebody else have the power, and we want to give everything that we are away. But you are a powerful game changer for the kingdom of God on this earth. You are a powerful person who the enemy can't stand to see in God's presence, because he knows if God really gets a hold of you, it's one thing for you to get a hold of God. But if God can get a hold of you, you're going to do some things that are going to change some lives. You're going to do some things that are going to break some bondages. You're going to go some places that you never thought you'd go and be some places you never thought you'd be. Because if you really get a hold of God, the stretch is only the beginning.
Yep.
The stretch is only the beginning.
Amen.
So why stretch? Well, I'm glad that you asked. You stretch for these few reasons right here. I'm going to give you these reasons why we stretch, and we're going to call it a day. First of all, you stretch to prepare. You stretch your faith to prepare. To prepare for what God's going to do in your life. God wants to stretch you in your faith to prepare you for what's coming. Verse 1 and 2 of Exodus chapter 2 says, "So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was beautiful, she hid him for 3 months." The hiding was preparing her. It was preparing her for what she had to give away, but it was preparing Moses for safety in his journey of where he would be. There was a preparation process. In those 3 months, she prayed over her baby, I guarantee you. You know, there's power when you pray over your babies. You know, I didn't grow up in church, so I don't really know that I had people praying for me. Nobody in my life came up and ever told me, I'm praying for you. And if they did, I don't remember it. And if they did, looking at the people that maybe would have told me that, I don't want them to, because, like, what? Never mind. That's a different story for a different day. But then I got with Chastity, and she wanted to go to church, and so I followed her to church, and I was like, okay, this is cool, you know, whatever. I'll go here for her, but that's about it. I just wanted to be with her, so I would deal with church just to be with her. And then her mom would come around, and we changed our lives, we dedicated ourselves back to Jesus, we started serving God, and she said, her mom would come up and she would say, oh, I'm so proud of Chastity and Jonathan, and she said, I prayed for Chastity her whole life. I prayed for Chastity. I prayed that Chastity would bring her somebody good. I prayed for Chastity. I prayed when I knew she was out there doing nonsense. I prayed for Chastity. I prayed for her nonstop. And I thought, I wish that I had somebody running around telling me that they prayed for me my whole life. But because somebody prayed for her, and I was connected to her, when she went the way she went, God said, no, I'm not leaving you behind. I'm bringing you also. I have a plan for you too. I have a plan that you might have missed throughout your life. I have a plan that maybe you haven't been prepared for yet. But I'm preparing you now for what you will do in the future. I'm preparing you now for Marion, Indiana. And Marion is preparing you for Fort Wayne as a youth pastor. And Fort Wayne is preparing you for Orlando. And Orlando is preparing you to go back to Fort Wayne to start a church, to make a difference in the community. Yeah. Because that is the plan that God had for me. That is the plan. That is what God wanted to do in my life and in Chastity's life. And I would have never found it if somebody hadn't been praying for a person I was connected to. All right. Preparation starts very young. She prayed for her baby. I know she did. She prepared an ark for him. And so the ark was something that was going to keep him safe, which I don't want to get too far ahead because that's where we're going next. But God does the same thing for us. He prepares us to get through the stretching. He prepares us to go through the battles. He prepares us to go through what we're going through. And you think, why do I have to deal with it? You know, why do I have to go through the things that I've been through? Why do I have to have the story I have? Why couldn't I have grown up in a Christian home with Christian parents that were married my whole life, that loved Jesus, that died peacefully in their bed? Why do I have to have the struggle? Why do I don't want the struggle, God. I don't want the testimony like that. I want a good testimony. But the test is not, the struggle is not in the testimony. The stretching is not in an easy life. Even the people who have a good testimony, who have had a good Christian life, they still have a stretching process that they have to walk through. And so nobody is exempt from the stretching. The stretching prepares you for where you're going to in the future. Sometimes the thing God wants you to have most, He puts just out of your reach. And we think, man, that's rude, God. How are you going to put what I want right outside of my reach? I can't reach it. That's rude. And I thought about that when I was writing this stuff, and I thought when we was little, and we had kids, that's not right. When the kids were little, And really Elijah, and we were trying to teach him how to crawl and walk, we would take something and we would put it like just out of his reach. Because he wanted it. So we would let him play with it for a minute and then we would take it away because we're good parents and we would put it outside of his reach. And we would tell him, if you want it, you gotta go. You gotta get up. And Chastity would be down there, she'd be like, you gotta get up, you gotta crawl. And she'd put him in this little crawling position and he would like rock back and forth and she'd be like, you're there. You're getting it. Go on, keep going. And so we do this for a long time because Elijah was like, I'm not doing it. You don't tell me how to live my life. I will do it when I want to. And so we're like, come on. And he would start fussing. He'd be like, I want the bottle. And so Isaiah would come over and grab it and he'd just give it to him. And Chastity would be like, Isaiah, what are you doing? And he would go, well, he wanted it. And you jerks put it 2 feet in front of him. So what's wrong with you? What are you doing? It's the real question here. But God takes the things that we want, the things that we need, the things that we're striving for, and He puts it right out of our reach, because out of our reach develops us to go further. It prepares us for what we're going to do. You have to be prepared to go into your next level. You have to be prepared to go into what God has for you. It will no longer work where it's at. You have to stretch for it. You have to go after it. You have to try. You can't circumvent the stretch in your life and then think everything's going to work out good. The stretch is there for a purpose. The stretch is there to strengthen you. Notice that how what your next level was back then comes to you so easy now. My next level when I was first in church was just learning the Bible. I'm still learning the Bible, but I'm learning it in different ways now. My next level has changed. If you're always moving forward, and you're always moving up, and you're always elevating, your next level will always change. It will never stay the same. Your next level cannot be what it is today, tomorrow. You have to have a new next level. You can't just say, I'm happy coming to church, I'm happy living my life, I'm happy with this, I'm happy with that. No, once I reach this bar, I'm raising it to a new place. Once I get where I'm going, I'm going to set my goals a little farther. My goals are so big that people like to laugh at me when I tell them, and I think that's great, because if I'm setting small goals, I'm never reaching new levels. But if I set big goals that only God can do, every new level is a victory in my march to a big goal. Every new level is a victory in my march to forgiveness. Every new level is a victory in my march to peace. Every new victory is a new level in my march to whatever I set my goal at. Amen. But if we don't set our goals right, we'll never reach it, because we can never be prepared for what we're not looking for. Your next level is not a staying still place. It's a stretching place. The second thing that we do, the second reason we stretch our faith is because it's to protect us. It's to protect us. Verse 3 and 4, she made an ark of bulrushes, and she daubed it with asphalt and pitch. Asphalt and pitch. That's the New King James translation. Yours might say something different. What does that mean? The ark, Moses was placed in an ark. The Hebrew word for ark that's used right here is tebah. And it's only used to describe two things. It's used to describe Noah's ark, and it's used to describe Moses' ark. Not the Ark of the Covenant, different ark. It's used to describe these two arks. The two arks that are used for protection. The preparation is something that we can do. When God told Noah, I want you to go build an ark, Noah can prepare, but only God can protect once the ark is done. Right. And Jochebed goes and she builds this nice ark for Moses, and she lays him in it at 3 months old, and it's all good, it's waterproof, it's ready to go. Because the pitch and the asphalt were used for a couple things. If you read about it in Noah's Ark, they did the same thing. They put pitch and asphalt all over it. And what that means is they waterproofed it so that when the water came, it would float. It wouldn't take on what was on the outside. It was meant for safety. It was meant to be something to keep them safe, and it was a symbol of salvation. And God wants to protect us in our storm. God wants to protect us in our failure. God wants to protect us in our loss, in our pain, in our suffering, in our struggle. For Noah, it meant to save people from destruction. But for Moses, it meant to save people from bondage. Because Noah wouldn't build an ark to save everybody because God was going to wipe out the earth. Moses was put in an ark because God wanted him to take people away from bondage. Now, you might have to understand, there have been some times that you've been around some dangerous stuff. Maybe I can't talk for you, so let me talk for me. There's been some times that I've been in some dangerous situations. There's been some times that I didn't think I was going to make it home that night. There's been some times that I've walked through some real dark, scary places, and I have to understand that God had me in an ark because there was something that God wanted to do in my life, and he had to protect me on the inside from what was coming against me on the outside. The thing that would have drowned me on the outside now was kept outside because God had a plan for my life. God wanted me to help people get out of bondage. God wanted me to help people get out of sin and struggles and issues. God wanted to use me in a way, the same way that he used Moses, and the same way that he will use you if we just get into the ark.
Amen.
Right. Amen.
There's something about the ark. There's something about being safe. There's something about being in God's favor. There's something about being wrapped. And Moses was only 3 months old. He didn't know the dangers out there. He didn't know what was potentially coming to him. He didn't know what he was going through. We have to do our part. We have to prepare. But it's up to God to do the protecting. See, the enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy.
Amen.
He wants to take everything you got. He wants to steal you. I know, like, why are you talking about this? This is like that old school church devil stuff. No, this is real stuff. You got an enemy that is fighting against you. You got an enemy that is throwing dangerous things at your ark. He is throwing things at your ark with the intention to stop you where you're at. But there's something better. God has something better. God has something new for you. God has something that you've never seen. Something that no ear has ever heard. Neither has it entered into the heart of man what God is going to do. He's going to bring you a new blessing. He's going to bring you a new promise. He's going to bring you a new protection. But it all starts when we get into the ark.
Amen.
These two items were used for one reason: to keep what was outside, outside. So what are you letting in? What are you letting leak in? They hurt me, Trisha. So I'm going to let pain leak into my ark. Sean, I'm going to let unforgiveness leak into my heart, and I'm not going to let anybody take it. It's in here now. I'm going to let suffering enter into my ark. Dustin, I'm going to let being a victim enter into my ark. I am going to be the best professional victim that you've ever seen in your life, because what was meant to stay on the outside, I've let in now. And I'm going to live in it, and I'm going to sit in it, and it's going to be there until eventually, do you know, if she wouldn't have done it right, if she wouldn't have waterproofed it right, and a little bit of water leaked in, there would have been a slow leak, but it was an enclosed thing. It was an enclosed basket. And so she had to waterproof the whole thing so that when she put it in the water, it all stayed out. But if you let a little bit in,
Amen.
a little bit more will get in. And a little bit more will get in. And eventually the safety that you're sitting in will start to sink. And everything that you've always known will be gone because you let a little bit get in.
Yeah.
It's okay, Dustin. I love everybody else, but this person I hate, and that's okay. That little bit will sink your ship. You heard Stephanie's story about being in Ecuador and throwing the water out of the boat. Imagine trying to throw the water out of the boat when you don't even know the water's coming in. All of a sudden, you just see that you're sinking. And you don't know how, but you know you need protection. The last thing stretching your faith does is it promotes you. I like the word promote. Can I tell you that? It makes me think that things are going good. The word promote to me makes me think you're doing such a good job, we're going to move you from here and we're going to put you over here. Promote is a nice word. I like it.
Amen.
Verse 9 and 10, the Pharaoh's daughter said, take this child away and nurse him. Promoted a couple things. First of all, promoted Moses. He went from living in bondage with the slaves where he was supposed to be murdered, and he put him in the palace where he was going to have the best education, the best treatment, the best food, the best of everything. God will transplant you from where you're at into a better circumstance with the promotion. He took him out of one thing and put him into another thing. Once you prepare, there's only one thing left, and that is the next level. God wants you out of your floating season.
Amen.
You can float forever.
Yeah.
But God wants to pull you out of your floating season.
Yes.
Floating is not good enough anymore. Floating is not what I want to do no more. I've been floating long enough. The Israelites walked for 40 years to make a 3-day journey. 40 years. Deuteronomy chapter 2, you'll read that God said, you've surpassed this mountain long enough. Turn north and walk.
Amen.
You've made circles long enough. You've tried by yourself long enough. You've done what you could do long enough. Now it's time for you to turn north. It's time for you to look up. It's time for you to see what I want to do. It's time for you to let me hear, let me give you my will. If you done walked around the same old issue for 40 years, it's time to move on. They are never going to come back and apologize to you. Your marriage is never going to get back together. It's time to let the dead thing lay over there and be dead, and you turn north and march to life, because you can never get to your next level, chained to what used to be.
Amen.
The promotion comes in the stretching of your faith.
Yes.
Amen.
You're floating right now. You're floating right now, and it's threatening to leak in. And it's threatening to sink you. You're floating in a drowning marriage. You're floating in a broken home. You're floating in abuse. You're floating in domestic violence. You're floating in whatever you're floating in, unhappiness, an unsatisfied heart. You're just floating. You get off work and you go home and you go and you text your wife or your husband or whatever, and you say, I'm on my way home, and then you drive around the block for 45 minutes just because you don't want to go home yet, because you're floating at home. I don't want to float no more. I want to do something better. You've been floating long enough. Move north. God's promotion will always take you up. He went from a house of slavery and oppression to a house of protection and promise. God knew that what Moses was going to do later, he had to see both sides.
Amen.
God knew that what Moses was going to do later, he couldn't do in the Israelites' house. He had to be in the Pharaoh's house. God knew that what Jonathan was going to do later, I couldn't do in Fort Myers. I had to do in Fort Wayne.
Right.
God knew that what you were going to do in your life, you couldn't do with your ex-husband or your ex-wife, so you lost that relationship. God knew that what he wanted you to do, you cannot do, chained to the things that hold you back. And so he stretches you to get you into the perfect place where you are aligned to walk out your purpose and your passion and your promise every single day.
Yes.
God knew what it was going to take. God's plan was so important that he said, I have to take you out of one season, but I'm going to bring you back. See, what has God taken you out of? Moses is called Moses because it means I drew him out of the water. What did God draw you out of? Stop labeling yourself a failure. God drew you out of failure. Stop labeling yourself an addict when God drew you out of addiction. Stop labeling yourself as broken when God drew you out of brokenness.
Yes.
Stop labeling yourself by what you used to be when God is pulling you out of it. And if you're not all the way out, just keep reaching, because he's still pulling. And he will pull, and he will pull, and he will pull until your promotion is locked up and you are ready to go.
Amen.
Amen.
Don't stop yet. I will use your escape, God says, to bring them out too. You know how many people I get to talk to from back in the day that I get to see? You know, this week, Chastity got some bad news about one of her best friends from high school passed away. It was tragic. It was sudden. She's healthy. Everything was fine, but she died. And Chastity has been in contact with people over the week that maybe she hasn't talked to in a while, or people that maybe didn't like her thoughts or stance on some certain issues, and they was like, well, then we can't be friends no more, or whatever the case may be. But she's been brought back into circumstances with people that maybe she hasn't talked to in a while, and it sucks that it had to be because of a passing of somebody that they all love together. It sucks of the circumstance, but what matters is that God now has an open door for her to show God's love to people who need to to see God's love the most. They are going through a struggle. They are going through a hard time. And she can be there not just to say God is able, not just to say have faith, not just to say keep on going, don't stop believing, but she can be there to say I love you, I'm here for you, you can cry to me, you can lean on me, you can be here because I will always be there for you. Why? How can you be so strong when you lost somebody too? Because of Jesus.
Amen.
Because of Jesus. Because 10 years ago, I couldn't have done this. But He's brought me out so that He could bring me back in.
Yeah.
Right when I needed to be brought back in. Is it possible that God wants to use your stretching, not just for you, but to strengthen the people that you're connected to? Let's close. God made something else out of wood. I'm going to close with this. He made something else out of wood. Not an ark, not a building, not a structure. He used a cross, an instrument of torture. We wear it as jewelry today. But in Jesus' day, it was seen as a device of murder and torture. It was the worst way. The Romans perfected executing people. They were masters at their craft. And they used it because it would completely stop the breathing. And Jesus knew that it had to happen. Because He knew that a couple thousand years later, Jonathan would find an altar to pray at. And Jonathan would get down on his knees and he would say, God, I've messed up and I'm sorry. I never knew I was messing up, but I did. And he built this cross. And then he said, there it is, Jesus. Can you imagine if you're sitting in heaven with your Father and all of a sudden He says, you can look at it now, it's ready. And you look out there and you just see the cross. You can look now, Jesus, it's ready. Oh God. In the garden, Jesus prays so much and He's so heavy-hearted that His tears are blood. His sweat is blood. Not His tears, His sweat is blood. God, I seen the cross. I don't want to. If there's another way, can we please do it that way? I don't want to do this. I don't want to. But Jesus, the strength comes in the stretching. And so Jesus went to that cross. And they put one hand down and they pounded the nail in. And because it was so wide, and the whole point was to stress his breathing and to kill him by basically asphyxiating him, they couldn't reach where the other nail went, so they had to stretch him. They had to stretch him. They had to pull his hand and his whole body over and pull on the nail that was already in and stretch him so far that he could barely breathe and then pound another nail into his hand. Because the strength comes in the stretching. And then God watched, just like Jochebed did, while He put His child on the wood. God watched while His son was mocked. God watched while His son was murdered. God watched while His son was given for you and for me, stretched out. And while He's stretched out and can barely talk and can barely breathe, the only thing that Jesus can think to say is, God, forgive them. Because they don't even understand what they're doing. Let me give you the Jonathan translation of that. God, they've not seen what I've seen. They don't know what heaven looks like. They haven't seen paradise, God. They haven't seen the fullness of your creation. We think flowers are pretty and animals look nice. You haven't even begun to see the fullness of God's beauty. God, they haven't even seen it yet. So forgive them, because I want them to see it too. I want them to be here too. Now He watched today, not just at the cross. And don't think the cross is gone. The cross is still active. It's forever etched into eternity. You know, I'm sorry, I'm trying to shut it down, but I just need to tell you this. You know, like people get nice things and they turn it into like an art, a decoration in their house. People get like we have in Chastity in our bedroom. We have we have the shelf over our bed, and over our bed there's a little glass container thing. I don't know what it is. but it holds the yellow rose that was on in your dad's funeral. It was on his casket. There was a yellow rose on his casket, and the little thing holds the rose that was on the casket. And it's kept it safe. It's kept it good. It's like you can tell it's been around for a while because it's aged, but the rose that's inside of it is still just as yellow as it probably was the same day because it's been preserved. And so I think about that sometimes, and I think, God, do you have a cross just hanging in heaven? Is that cross that bought my freedom just hanging there as wall decor in your paradise so that when I get there, yeah, I can look at Jesus and I can see the nails, but can I go see the cross too? Can I look at the instrument that bought my eternity, that bought my freedom? Can I see that too? I don't know. There's no biblical way to tell you that. I would like to think that there is because I'd really love to see it. But more importantly, I just want to see Jesus. And the cross will always be etched in heaven because of Jesus. Because every time you see Jesus' hands, his feet, every time you see the scars on his forehead from the crown, every time you see the wound in his ribs from the spear, every time you see Jesus' pain, you'll see that cross. And then you'll look around at paradise that you can't even imagine and you'll go, God, I can't believe you did this for me. I can't believe. Do you know who I was? Do you know what I did? You did this for me. Do you know how I hated people? And you loved the people that killed you? And God watched while Jesus died. He watched while Jesus was taken off the cross. He watched while Jesus was put in the tomb. And he watched hell have a party. But he knew the party wasn't forever. Because he knew that there was going to be another appearance of Jesus. And I'm here to tell you today, Jesus didn't stop at the cross. There will be another appearance of Jesus. And we can come to church and we can play church if we want to, but Jesus is coming back very real. And he's coming back with very much authority. And he's coming back to get his people. And I'm not here to play around and play church. I'm here to be church. Because when Jesus comes back, I don't want to say, I'll wait till I'm 90, I'll wait till I'm 80, I'll wait. This woman that passed away this week was 35 years old. Right? 35, 36-ish. She was right there. Maybe you're in that boat and you think, I'll wait till I'm 60. I got some living to do. I can't go out and feel good about hitting them bars, baby. You know what I mean? Hey, I can't feel good about it, you know. I'll wait till I'm 60 and all my life has been lived, and then I'll say, all right, I'll slow it down. 35. I did a funeral for a guy in Orlando that was 34 years old. He walked out, his parents were on vacation. He was going through a divorce, so he was living with his parents. He walked out of the shower. His parents found him 4 days later in the hallway. He just died. He just fell down dead in the hallway. They thought it was a heart issue, but his dad later told me that they had no idea what killed him. He was healthy, he was just like her. Just died. They found him 3 or 4 days later in the house. I'll wait. I wouldn't. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go all that heavy on you, but you don't understand the weight. Right here. Stretched, super wide. Barely breathing. For me. You don't ever have to accept it. But I did. And I will give everything I have for it.
Amen.
President Obama, President Trump, President Bush, President whoever else can come in and say, you can no longer worship. I'm going to say, I'm going to get mine. You can close the church, you can shut it down, but I am the church. You ain't taking it from me.
Amen.
Stretched. Let's pray. God, I thank you for your word. I thank you for what you do. I thank you for everything that you are in my life and in this ministry and in this church and in the lives of these people that will call you their God. So, Father, I pray that you would just continue to be with us in all that we do, that you would continue to hear our heart as we cry out to you, as we get close to you, as we spend time in your presence. That you would just continue to be God and show us that the stretching has a purpose, that the stretching is going to produce strength in our lives.